Hey everyone, Silver and I just finished the last episode of Mob Psycho 100. It's kind of bittersweet to me because I want this show to keep going, but I really like how this episode in particular, it had this kind of universal theme of adults wanting their life to be more special than kind of just ordinary daily life, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, that's been a theme of the villains here, and we get to see that, Reigen's an amazing character. He gets to lecture them, show them that they're like children, and various elements of their character that I thought was really odd, and we talked about it a little bit before, that the Sakamoto-looking guy, that he uses toys is a bit odd. The other guy I mentioned, he looks kind of like Sigma mixed with like a Dragon Ball Z villain. And that was directly pointed out here. He's like, why do you have that? And why do it's with the shoulder pads? Like, they don't serve any purpose. You're basically cosplaying. You use a plastic sword and use airsoft guns. I mean, it's very childish. And so they're just living in a fantasy world.
And the other guy's like, his spirit was, his monster was compared to like a plushie. Like, it's interesting to me.
Everything's toys and make-believe.
Exactly, yeah. Like how little kids would have, like, these imaginary fights. Which I thought was interesting. I also like how he points out to them that their rationalizations for world domination are similar to what a typical person, who has these fantasies of grandeur and that they're special. They have like this ability that hasn't been acknowledged yet by society. It's a similar kind of theme to that.
Well, it's a little bit like the 8th grader syndrome thing,
Exactly. Yeah.
They're just living in this fantasy world because they're struggling to deal with, or they're struggling with how they fit into society or what their role is. And I really liked, and I don't remember his name. What's the guy with the glasses? What's his name?
Sakurai?
I think it's something like Sakurai. Let's just go with that. I don't remember his name. But I like that, he tells his sad story, and then Reigen looks at him and he's like, oh, this guy's the same as me. And Reigen's like, I know exactly how you feel. I once forgot to tell my parents to give me a lunch. I was the only one without something to eat. I feel your pain. And then he's like, you don't know anything. And it was great because he's just belittling him.
And I love the drawings too. I love when they do the serious, like very detailed drawing too.
Yeah,
in
like
this show.
The sketch. Yeah.
But I also like how Reigen points out that when he doesn't realize at first that Mob has kind of transferred the energy to him, he's thinking like, oh, they're doing magic tricks, just like kind of what I do, like being frauds, I could see right through these people. And then I like how Ishiguro is revealed to be this old man, and he goes like, it's so hard to live. He's just this like...
Well, I really liked that at first we saw that they were like, oh, I thought maybe he was a girl, which is exactly what I was thinking, and what the audience would probably think. That, high-pitched voice, little, it's probably a girl using the mask to hide the fact that she's a woman. And
honestly, it was either going to be a girl or an old person.
I thought it might just be a child. Like, I wasn't so much thinking it was going to be... I assumed the voice actor was a woman, but I was just thinking it was going to be a child. Like a 12-year-old or something, and then it's like, oh, it's an old man, okay.
But again, it's a similar theme of how he says, I'm so special. I just want people to acknowledge me. It's like, at the end of the day, all these people want to be acknowledged.
They want to feel good about themselves.
Accepted by people, like, maybe even loved by their followers and so forth. But they're doing it.
Well, it's interesting. Because they're bitter, they don't want to be loved. They want to be worshipped because they want to be able to... There's a conflicting feeling there because they want to still feel they're better than people because they're bitter. But at the same time, they still want that feeling of belongingness that people want. And so that's a conflict. And so how do they resolve it? Well, they want to be worshipped, but kind of feared. They want to be like a ruler, and they want everything, and they can't have it. And
they're trying to resolve this conflict they have in the negative way that isn't really beneficial, which I like too, how when Mob transfers his energy to Reigen, he was able to take that rage and that completely destructive power that he could have done, and he gave it to a responsible adult, someone that he respected, somebody that he knew could And I don't think at first he even realized really what he had done, but then, as the action goes on, they both kind of acknowledge that he gave him the energy.
It's unclear. The narrator made it sound like Mob kind of did it on purpose. Whereas, Reigen didn't know what was going on. He figured it out as he was going. But I'm unclear whether Mob did it on purpose or not. But I guess or maybe it was kind of unconscious, sort of.
Well, I guess at first I was a little confused. But then when he goes like, wow, my sensei is amazing. I took that as like, okay, maybe he did realize that he had given his energy.
Mob definitely figured it out. Right, but I'm just wondering whether Mob consciously was like, I'm going to give him all of my powers, or whether it just sort of happened. I'm assuming it's kind of it just sort of happened, but Mob was aware that it was occurring.
And I like the metaphor too of the bridge, of how his bridge bridge was broken.
Disconnected. Yeah. And then he pulled him back. He rejoined his connection to him.
Because he didn't want that responsibility, but Reigen can help him, carry on.
Well, and Reigen dealt with the situation without killing anybody.
Right.
No one got hurt. He just was like, hey, you guys are being silly. He didn't act out of anger. He just acted out of being very responsible.
And I like, too, how, just as a brief aside, the whole commercial break thing, it always occurred to me to do the rock, paper, scissors thing with the commercial break to see who would win, but I never did it. And this is the last time. Yeah, this is the last time.
I did it a few times when I thought of it.
Maybe season 2 they'll have it. But anyways, I like how these realizations continue on as the episode goes on. Onigawara, the guy who, they had framed for doing all these things at the school, which he knew they had done that to him, it helped him realize about himself that he wasn't acting in the best way to get other people to like him.
Being a delinquent wasn't really that good, and so we see that he was hanging out with the Body Transformation Club just because he didn't have anywhere else to go, and now he's in them, and he's working out, and he's running with them, and they're the best influence on anybody, other than apparently Reigen, of course.
We get to see a cute shot of Mob running. I just love his
passing out.
His total exhaustion. The music at that scene was really good too. So I just like how not only did it sum everything up for everybody in a very satisfying way to me, while also kind of showing a bit more about this, like, okay, we see this father, the evil, like, maybe head of the Claw division.
Yeah, we get to see that the show is his son. That's interesting. But backing up a little bit, I really like how it sort of ends. I mean, we get that other scene at the end, but it sort of ends. We get Mob, his mind wandering. He's still bending the spoons as he eats. So it's very similar to the beginning of the show. But we see that things are a little bit different now. Ritsu, gets to fix it because now Ritsu's awakened and has powers. And initially, remember, we see that Ritsu's relationship with Mob seemed really loving. He's like, oh, Nissan, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're really nice, but it was fake. It was disingenuous because he was sitting there coveting his powers, feeling jealous. Right. But now it's genuine. Now he helps him and he has powers and they're more equal and they really appreciate each other. And now it's the actual relationship Mob always thought it was.
Right. Exactly.
So things have they look the same, but they're very different. And we get to see that Dimple's being more integrated in. Reigen can now see him, so that's a nice thing because now they get to interact and their personalities.
Which just make me think that some of the psychic powers may have awoken a little bit.
Maybe, or it's just a convenience so that he can interact. Because the two of them interacting will be really fun.
It'll be funny too. Yeah. So overall, this was just really satisfying, and I like the end I like the bonus part when they're looking for the Tsuchinoko.
Yeah, the Tsuchinoko thing was great.
I like how they had this different toning on the characters, these little dots, because it felt more like the manga, because the toning was different. Yeah. It was more manga-like.
And I liked how Mob really seems to be maturing with how he is with Reigen, because he's like, we shouldn't be here. Oh, he just wants mushrooms. Like, why are we even here? And then they find the thing, and he refuses to acknowledge it exists. And I thought this was interesting, because that was really beneficial. When Reigen was was encountering Claw, he's like, you people are all children, this is silly. Like, I refuse to believe that you're acting like kids. And he just was able to sort of refuse to acknowledge them, and it worked out because Mob was there. I'm wondering if this is a foreshadowing that's going to kind of stop as things get more serious, because this was a real world, cryptid, right?
Right.
And I forget what initialism they use. The U, was it UMA? That is the Japanese equivalent.
UMA, unidentified.
Whatever. It's what they call cryptids. Like Bigfoot and stuff.
Unidentified mysterious animals.
I thought it was interesting that he refused to acknowledge it was there when it was really there. Even when it shrank, it was still there. It was a Tsuchinoko, so that's weird. And so I'm wondering whether when the leader of Claw comes, the same sort of tactics are just not at all going to work, and they're going to actually have to have a conflict, just because he's not going to be able to talk his way out of this. Because at a certain point, violence is very childish. Violence still really does happen, even in society. And so he was able to talk his way out of the people who are acting overtly childish, and they're sort of like, we're acting like we're supervillains. The leader of Claw does seem a little bit different. He seems just kind of like an evil executive guy.
Oh, yeah. So, the way they shadowed his face and his eyes are wide open, kind of like...
and I'm wondering... I didn't look up who his voice actor was. I'm wondering who's the guy who does Gildarts. It sounded a little bit like him.
And that was the first time I ever seen a Tsuchinoko in an anime. So that was like a new like creature that I had learned about. That was really cute too. So overall, just really, really satisfying episode. And I am looking forward to Mob Psycho Season 2. I'm going to start reading the manga. It's just a really cute show, and it might become really serious, but we'll see. So that's our discussion on episode 12 of Mob Psycho 100. Let us know what you thought about the final episode, and pretty soon we're going to be doing our most anticipated anime shows for the fall season. Please like the video if you like the video, and subscribe if you want more anime reviews and discussions. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.